Alrighty, welcome to Scale Financial Operations Without Growing Headcount with Payables Plus. We are so happy you guys are here today. I'm joined by Celeste Mann from CINC, our senior sales engineer over here, as well as Jarrett Tran from AvidXchange, who is their senior account executive for community associations. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you guys to talk to us more about Payables Plus.
Thank you so much, Juliana. It was nice to be here with everybody today. And Celeste, thanks for also joining to talk about this. So I'm Jarrett Tran. I am one of the AvidXchange sales folks who is in our community association management division. And before joining Avid back in 2022, I spent 19 years doing community association management, operations, leadership, and Celeste has a similar background. Can you tell them a little bit about your background there?
Absolutely. So prior to being at CINC, I actually was the director of operations at a large management firm for 7 years prior. So definitely here to answer any questions you have about how this might work in your way of doing business.
So we're here today is to talk about scaling operations in the back office. And I think that for management companies, in general, it's one of the most difficult things that has to happen. One of the things that we see a lot of management companies encounter is this situation where you want to bring on new communities, but the problem is the back office staff, they're at full capacity and they can't do anything else without hiring additional people. But as many of you all know, in this business, what's so tricky is it's very hard to forecast what new business management companies are going to bring in at any given time. The reason I think that that happens is because when we look at the client, we kind of have two scenarios. The first scenario is that you've got an association that's been fired by their existing management company, and they need the new management company hired and in place like within less than 30 days. And so those situations happen sometimes. And then there are other situations where a board has, I mean, a management company has given several proposals to a board, and the board members have changed, or they just can't make a decision. And the process is like 3 years. So you don't know exactly when it is that new business is going to come in the door. And because of that, it makes it tricky because it's like, well, if I hire somebody, how fast am I going to be able to recover what I'm spending on that salary? And so this makes it very tricky for management companies to scale. I mean, is that kind of what you experienced too, Celeste, when you were doing operations?
Absolutely. It makes it really tricky, and you definitely are always looking for a more efficient way to process payables and handle those back office items.
I did for me anyway, I also had trouble hiring people to do this work.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that COVID definitely didn't help anything because salary expectations changed and like remote work, etc. Did you see a shift like in what you would prefer your back office team to be doing versus doing like data entry? What were the things that were like probably more of a value add from a back office perspective?
absolutely. I mean, kind of the biggest one is the shift to working from home for a lot of people. So a lot of teams had less people in office, less people available for kind of that manual work, whether it is payables or coding things. And those tedious types of tasks that used to happen in the office are now sort of kind of regularly not happening in the office. So having the ability to streamline those things within one system is huge.
For me, one of the things that I looked at was, I would rather have my team members that are in the office or not in the office working on things like getting the financials out on time. That was one
Yeah,
of the things that was always a struggle, at least for me, is getting the financials out on time. Maybe we could have done a little bit better on accounts receivable in terms of getting our letters out the door. There, in 2025, it seems a little bit wild to me that we still run into so many management companies. They open the envelope, somebody's going to scan it in. Once they scan it in, then it's got to be routed to the right people. Then somebody's got to touch it here, touch it there, and it takes like I think from invoice to payment, it takes around 10 minutes and 15 seconds per each one. And now you can automate that, it takes about 2.5 minutes. And so when you extrapolate that over the quantity of payments and invoices that a management company encounters in 1 month, it really is impactful to the management company's bottom line.
It really is.
The what one kind of back of the envelope math that I use when I walk into some of these prospective clients' offices, or if I have a call with them, is and typically I will picture about 10 payments per association per month, and then 15 invoices per association, and meaning that five of those are not going to be paid through AvidXchange, or maybe they're being paid through auto draft for electricity, or the management fee that's being ACH'd.
Mhm.
But the invoice still exists and needs to get processed. So on average, I see about 10 payments per association. So for a hundred unit, sorry, for 100 association management company, that's like 1,000, a thousand payments, or 1,500 invoices a month. And so then you look at the labor hours that are associated with that, it's pretty significant. And so there's some tools out there that we hope that we can talk about that will help solve this for a lot of people. Traditionally, this has been another struggle has been these tools exist in two different places. So you have an accounting system over here, and then you have a standalone AP system. And there it's an integration and it's good and all that stuff, but there's some challenges there because as you're trying to grow your company, you're not wanting to constantly have to train people, both board members and staff members, in two places. So that's one of the things that I think is being solved really in the past year for us, and we can talk about that a little bit more. But the other thing is, like for me, and I don't know if you had your manager set up like this, Celeste, but I every time I had a portfolio, like my portfolio or the portfolio assignment change, that if I reassign the managers, you'd have to reassign them in two places, right?
Yeah.
And so this makes it so you can just do it one place.
Yep.
So that's what, time and technology are doing for us right now.
And same
Um,
with board members.
Same with what? What do you say?
Board
Board.
members.
Oh yeah, I think about that.
Any approval process really, really is so much easier when it's all in one place.
So before we jump into looking at CPI, I just want to make sure that we're addressing like what we're talking about here wholly. And we really just want to say there's a way to do this AP where you're not having to add headcount. You can have repeatable AP workflows. They're the same thing. And we want to create a space where where we have repeatability and a fixed price per transaction. So by doing this, and we'll talk more about like the way the pricing works, this allow if they're using this AP automation, whether it's this or something else, they're able to pay per transaction versus having to hire somebody, and it's going to be a fixed amount each time. So I want to make sure that we circle back to the word scalability and what we're talking about here, and what being able to do that will enable management companies to grow. And I think that that's where a lot of people get to these points where they'll get to like 36 communities and then they kind of stall out and they stay there and they like, I don't know how to stop working in the business, and they want to work on the business.
Yep.
So then they'll get to another milestone. Maybe it's 50, and then same kind of thing. So this helps with that quite a bit. Um, so let's hop on and show. Can you show them how the CPI invoicing agent works?
Absolutely. So we've layered in agentic AI to help take kind of that tedious task when you're coding the invoice, whether it's just data entry and also coding that GL code that you need to include, right? And teaching it to split those if needed. So I'm going to start a little bit from the beginning because this is actually triggered by when you use our email ingestion tool. So there is CINC's email upload, or excuse me, invoice upload tool, which is still fantastic, not going anywhere, but we do have an email ingestion that is super easy. And so I will start there and kind of show you what that looks like on my
Hey,
screen. here.
While you're bringing that up, I didn't really clarify this. So,
Yeah.
the product that we're talking about today is CINC Payables Plus. Now, you may have heard of a CINC Vendor Pay before, and that is the payment tool that resides in CINC that is a partnership between AvidXchange and CINC, and has allowed people to issue payments directly out of CINC using AvidXchange's payment rails. What CINC has done this year is create this product called CINC Payables Plus, and it combines the power of CPI, their AI tool,
Mhm.
and the AI invoice agent, and it combines that CPI tool with the CINC Vendor Pay. So you have both the invoice processing and the payment. So together, those are called CINC Payables Plus, and that's what we're going to be talking about here today.
Exactly. Thank you. And so, yeah, just the very beginning of that process is when that invoice comes in, right? So you might receive invoices in an email, you might receive them in paper, right, and scan them in. And so you can kind of function this however you're doing business. But my favorite way is to have a shared inbox for your AP team. So maybe it's ap.yourcompany whatever it is, we can actually set up forwarding for you to a secure email address that might be your company.invoices@cincsys.com. Now, from there, you can choose to include a subject or not. You could just set up auto forwarding for this. So it's really, really easy to just forward in invoices or just attach files here. So if you choose to attach a file, right, and send that invoice in, it'll actually show up automatically in a brand new screen here. So under vendors, you would have access to this review AI coded invoices button. Now from here, you can click in, right? See any batches from any date here. And you can also edit a batch assignment. You can assign it to yourself, or you can reassign or unassign here to anybody you work with. Now, a couple of cool things here. So CPI is going to tell you that it scanned this invoice, and it's actually going to enter all this data for you. So you can see that due date matching up, you can see the association matching up, an invoice number. It also chose the vendor for you. Now, of course, we're not taking the human out of this, just making it a lot easier. So you can actually unlink this vendor should there be any issues or what have you. But another cool thing here, guys, is it serves as kind of a secondary safety net for maybe this is a duplicate invoice, or maybe you have an alert on your vendor. So it's going to give you all of those alerts here in a secondary place. Now, additionally, what it's going to do for you is code that GL for you. So let's say you need to actually teach it something, right? That's the cool part about agentic AI instead of this maybe being like an OCR kind of invoice reader that you've seen before. So you can actually teach it and say, okay, let's actually add another GL and I need to split these up. So every time it gets an invoice with this kind of line item for this association, it'll split them. Now, the other cool part is you can just start typing, search part of that GL or the search part of the account number and search here, right? So maybe it's also electrical maintenance. So you can split all of those as needed and teach it. Now, additionally, it's still going to give you that transparency that we know and love throughout all of your invoicing processing with all of your recent payments and vendor information. And of course, you can always, this works for recurring invoices. And if you have invoices you need to split, we can do that too. So once you have this invoice coded, right, it'll come in coded for you. You just review, hit save. You always have the option, guys, to save as a draft as well if we need to change anything or make any vendor adjustments. But you can hit save here, and this will go through your regular invoice processing. Now, from there, it'll go through our CINC vendor pay, which Jared's going to speak about. But a couple other cool things I want to point out here are over here, you see your invoice image, right? You can zoom in and out. It's kind of a nice PDF reader embedded in the site. Additionally, you can see what coding decisions were made by the AI. You can also, guys, see the email content. So if you ever, when you do email that in, if you ever have an email from a vendor that includes other information that might be pertinent to that invoice, you can actually process that and include that information. Additionally, you will always receive an email back confirming that there was a successful upload. So it's really built to make sure you're not getting any junk mail. We just want to process your invoices here for you. Now, let's see, any questions on that end before we jump into kind of the payable side?
You see any questions, Juliana, for
Yes, so we do have one question. Is this functionality part of CINC or is there an additional fee?
Yes, I'll talk about that. And you know what we'll do to just to make this to make it easier, we'll do the Q and A at the end.
Yeah,
Okay,
That way we can keep it moving, and then I'll answer that in
perfect.
my part here. Do you have anything else that you need to show, Celeste?
no, that is it.
Okay, great, cool. So the next part, so once you approve your invoice in Sync, when we set this up for you, it'll have an option that says Sync Vendor Pay as the payment type. So typically your payment type is probably defaulted to check, and we encourage people that are on this defaulted to Sync Vendor Pay. Now, I want to stop right here and say you can still cut a check in-house if you need to. And if you have payments that are on auto draft, you can leave them there. We don't expect you to call utility companies and change all that stuff. So it's totally fine. But for everything else, what you would do is you would select the sync vendor pay payment type. And once you submit it, it will transmit over to AvidXchange and we make magic happen. So the first thing that's going to happen is we will determine if they're already on our network or not. By the way, we have over 1.3 million vendors on our network. And so there's probably a good chance that if you're paying a vendor, there's another management company that works with us across town that's paying that same vendor and they're already on our network. So we're going to check and see if they're on our network. If they're on our network and they've told us how they want to get paid already, then we will pay them that way. If they haven't been paid by us, the default payment type is check and we will issue a check. But before the check goes out, we will make an effort to call them and tell them number one, we need to verify that we have the best most up-to-date contact information, a point of contact at the company. But we will also take the time to educate them on the other types of payments besides check. So again, the first payment type is check. The second payment type is Avid Pay Direct. Avid Pay Direct is an enhanced ACH. And so it's essentially like a direct deposit into the vendor's bank account. The difference is that we're going to transmit remittance details through that payment. So it's going to appear on their bank statement. So they'll be able to properly reconcile the account and make sure that they give the association proper credit for the invoice payment. And then the other thing that they'll get is an email with that remittance data too. And with this form of payment, we charge for this. We charge 1.25% to the vendor up to the first $25,000. So it maxes out at $312.50. When you are, I know that some of you have some vendors that maybe are smaller vendors and maybe they're used to getting a smaller payment on a regular basis. But every once in a while, they might have a really big one. So an example is maybe there's a landscaper and they get paid $500 a month to mow the grass at a small association, but they have also been contracted with by that association to do a $30,000 landscaping improvement project. The vendor can establish a threshold with AvidXchange that says something like anything above $1,000 we would like to receive by check because the check payment's always free to the vendor. And anything less than that, I'd like to receive electronically. That way they can take advantage of the convenience of Avid Pay Direct or virtual credit card. Virtual credit card is the next form of payment. So this is a little different. We issue a single-use credit card number and the exact amount of the invoice. We transmit that over to the vendor. We send a secure email with a portal access. They will go there. They will pull down that credit card number, and they will run that through either their accounting system or their credit card terminal. And that's how they get paid. On that one, we don't charge the vendor anything for that directly, but AvidXchange is a stakeholder of the Mastercard network and also a licensed money transmitter. Because of that, we make money on on those payments. We share that money on both Avid Pay Direct and virtual credit card with CINC each month, and CINC will therefore share some of that money back with the clients on this program. So we'll talk about that in just a second. There are a couple things that I like to highlight about this form of payment and why I think it's particularly It's particularly useful or helpful for management companies. Um, this when you even with the check payment, when those checks are issued from AvidXchange, they're issued from AvidXchange's clearing account instead of the association's bank account. That is important because if the check is if there's fraud or it's washed from somebody picked it up in the mail, then that is the responsibility of AvidXchange. We take care of that. So it relieves the management company and the association of the exposure of risk from fraud. So check fraud is really on the rise for community association management companies right now. So this is one thing that I think management companies are happy that to be able to tell their board members, "Hey, we use this program to help protect your money." It's also a great tool for when management companies are going to market to potential communities and board members can say, "Hey, we care a lot about your money, and this is what we do to protect it." Um, so this is something that is it's a great tool that way. Let's talk about the payment timelines though. So if you send over a payment to AvidXchange from CINC, um, if it is done before 3 p.m. Eastern on a business day, we will generate the payment that day and it goes out the following business day. And we include Saturdays for mailing. So the payments go out pretty quickly. We do not hold the payments to get in contact with somebody to tell them about electronic payment types. If we haven't reached them by 4 o'clock that day, from the first time we make a payment, we will go ahead and send out a check. So there's nobody's holding on to payments trying to contact vendors. Let's talk about pricing. So that's the thing that everybody's probably most interested in knowing. If you commit over 50% of your existing check volume through CINC on to CINC Payables Plus, we will give you all the CPI invoice ingestion for free. It is normally 40 cents per invoice. So that's number one. It's a huge tool because it's going to save a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of labor hours that are dedicated to keying in and scanning invoices. So that's the first piece of this package that really is a big win for management companies. The second part that's also a great value is that both of the electronic payment methods are free to the management company. So there's no cost for Avid Pay Direct, and there's no cost for virtual credit card to the management company at all. And then the only expense that's happening on a regular basis is check payments. Those are going to be $1.49 each. So that $1.49 does include postage, which is, I think a stamp right now is 78 cents and the metered rate is 73 cents. So it includes that postage, check stock, and envelopes. And I know that most of the management companies charge back their associations for those expenses anyhow. But that is the only expense of this program on an ongoing basis. Now, there is a $1,500 one-time implementation fee, and that goes for all of your associations. So it's not for her association or anything like that. That will cover the entire project. Um, Now, I mentioned earlier on the electronic payments, we do provide a rebate on those. The rebate for virtual credit card is 25 basis points, and the rebate for Avid Pay Direct is 7 basis points. So it's going to but by the time those rebates come in, we have seen most of the time that $1.49, when you look at the check, anything that you bill back, typically most people are billing back postage, that plus the bill back income plus the rebate typically makes this so it's either the association management company is making a little money each month on this program, or they're at least, if they're a smaller company, then they're at least breaking even every month, so they're not having any additional expense for this. So, but of course, when we look at the big picture, there's an overall incredible savings if you're doing the whole process manually today. Now, one other thing that I want to address that know that we need to address is that there are a lot of people who are currently on Avid Strongroom that are interested in this program. We are glad to support you either way. If you want to stay on Avid Strongroom and continue to use the sync integration, that's fine. But if you want to use Payables Plus and you like this program, we can certainly help you do that. You would need to talk to your sync rep, and then what will happen there is that the sync rep will give you contact information for the person at AvidXchange that you would need to contact to see about where you are in your contract with Avid. Once either the remainder of the contract can be bought out, or if you're at the end of the contract, you can turn in a notice with AvidXchange and so you can create a contract but with Sync because this product is on Sync's paper. So we have a contract, AvidXchange has a contract with Sync, and Sync has a contract with the management company. So we handle it a little bit differently. You'll still be a client, but we just handle it differently from an administrative perspective. You can, if you're on StrongRoom today, you can participate in this program. We just need to unbind you from the current Avid agreement and move you over to the Sync agreement. So we've given a lot of information in a short period of time. I think now is probably a great time to open up the floor for questions. Is there anything that you can think of that I didn't cover, Celeste?
No, that's really it. I think just guys, this is huge time saving so that your AP specialist can really fly through things and focus on some other meaningful tasks. It's been huge.
One thing that I kind of a takeaway for me on this product and why I tend to be a little passionate about is because anything that I could do for the managers that work for me or my team members in the back office to make it so that they have a better experience doing their job, I was all about that. And now when we have problems attracting and retaining talent, like anything like this that can just make their lives a little bit easier is a really nice thing to be able to do. So anyway, I hope that you guys will feel the same way, and I'm glad to answer some questions now.
Awesome. So you already touched on what if I already have AvidXchange, so good on that one, Jarrett. Reading people's minds over here. Um, I have a question. So Celeste, you mentioned there's an option to split invoices. Is there anything to merge invoices for multi-page invoices that were separated?
I'm so glad you asked. Yes, absolutely. And that's right on your screen just to merge them.
Awesome. So it's quick, easy button. Awesome. All right. I had one question on a note that Jarrett had earlier. What is a basis point? Could you expand on that just a little bit more?
Yes, it's a percentage of a percent. So it's like when I was talking about the 25 basis points, it's like 25% of 1% is what that is.
Awesome.
So if the spend, let's just say that, so you would take like let's just say if a payment is $1,000, then you would take that and multiply it times 0.0025 to calculate what your rebate would be on that $1,000.
Awesome. For checks, will the invoice include the association name so they can bill back to the association?
Yeah, yes, but there are also some tools in Sync that you can use, and Celeste, correct me if I'm wrong, but that to automate the billing back to the association.
Yes, yeah, absolutely look into that portfolio module, excuse me, the management module, and addendum billing because we can kind of auto track some of that for you, but it's really helpful to just automatically bill back to the association.
But yes, there are some tools that will allow you to have visibility into like how many checks are issued, and et cetera, so you can bill back to the association. If there's not something not that I doubt that there is, but there's not something that you don't that you see or like in Sync for that. We do also provide you another tool from AvidXchange as part of this package. It's more of like a back office tool that will give you some access to additional reporting too.
Mhm.
Awesome. And then for invoice approvals, would this be through web access on the sync side or would this be through AvidXchange?
Great question. Neither actually, depending on how you're doing them. So this actually would be all inside of Sync. Everything is right here, right where you're doing your manager approvals. Now, if you do have any board members doing invoice approvals, that would be in their web access portals that they already are familiar with today. So kind of no lift there as well. We would just help you add that invoice approvals page if you need help adding that one to your web access portals.
Awesome. And then I've one question for Jarrett really quickly. Do you vet vendors, i.e., make sure their insurance is correct?
We don't do that. That is something that there are some other companies that are they're out there. They're integrated with CINC. I think Vive is one of them,
Yeah.
um, and they can you can partner with them to do that, and it's already integrated with CINC. So might be worth checking into that.
If you want to connect with them, just let us know and we can help you connect with the right people there.
Absolutely. I've got a couple different questions as far as the AI invoice reading and Avid or Exchange slash Payables Plus. What is the difference between the two? Do I have to have one to do the other? Can I just have CPI or can I just have payables? Could y'all expand on more of that?
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic question. So CPI Plus is kind of a conglomerate of agents, right? Agentic AI agents that we've implemented on kind of tedious tasks. One of them being this invoice coding agent. Now, what we've done is kind of partnered Sync Vendor Pay and this invoice coding agent. So if you have Payables Plus, fantastic, you will be given this agentic AI agent for invoice coding. If you have CPI Plus, you'll also have access to that. So kind of either way is accessible.
Again, you don't have like so Avid doesn't do any of the invoice processing with Payables Plus. It's all done with Sync. Avid only does the payment. So a lot of, it looks like we have some people that are on Avid Strong Room. That's a different arrangement where Avid is doing the invoice ingestion and we're doing the data entry and indexing. And then we're doing the payment, and then that sits outside of Sync, and it pushes over into Sync overnight through our integration. This is an embedded solution. Payables Plus is an embedded solution that allows your users to stay in one environment without ever having to leave Sync.
Mhm.
Awesome. And then next question, can you schedule payments for future dates?
Great question. So inside of Sync in your invoice processing kind of center, so your invoices page, you can post for, it's called post for, that is kind of the box, but you can post for different dates as needed. Now kind of unrelated to the payments part, because that'd just be when you're posting the invoice. Now separate from that, Jared, I don't believe there's any sort of additional work on that, correct?
No, there's not.
But yeah, you can absolutely use what's already built there, right, for posting payments on whatever dates needed.
That might be an existing StrongRoom client because there's a tool in StrongRoom that allows them to schedule the payment for future date.
Got it.
It's great for those associations that don't have a lot of money and every month you have to wait to
Right.
pay their bills. Yeah.
And
So
then yeah, built into Sync if you need to, we just call it post and you choose a different date.
awesome. Same thing.
Cool. Can you determine in sync if you want the check to be sent to AvidXchange or if you want to print internally?
Yes, absolutely. So on your vendor profile, you'll have the choice, which you already do today. Whether you have Sync Vendor Pay or not, you have the choice of your default payment method for each association for each vendor. Now you have this option for Sync Vendor Pay. If you have associations that prefer payments by check or vendors that prefer payments by check, you can automatically adjust that. But you can also print in-house as needed if you still need to cut a check live, right? Maybe the vendor walked in and needs payment now. So you can still cut a check right then if needed.
Awesome. Next question, can we talk a little bit about getting away from EFT and actually using a virtual card to be used for utility payments? Jarrett, I think that's more y'all's side.
Yeah, so you can move away from that if you'd like to. I mean, with the virtual card, you have the ability um, to to capture a rebate, which is nice, especially as utility bills can be kind of high, right? So you can do that, but keep in mind that the vendor gets to choose how they want to be paid. That includes the utility company. So they have to have an arrangement with AvidXchange, and that's not something that the management company can choose. So you can't choose to do that. In the virtual card, like we don't give it to the management company to issue the payment over the phone with the utility company. So again, it would have to be an arrangement with the utility company and AvidXchange. Now we do have some utility companies that do have those arrangements. So it is likely that you might have a utility provider that does have an arrangement with Avid for one of those electronic payment modalities. The only way for you to be able to know that, I'd say it would be to default all of your payments for like a month to just see which ones are accepting them by virtual credit card. There's some reporting that Avid can provide you through our platform, which again is just a back office tool that we give you. You can see it, and I think that I know that there's visibility inside of Sync too to show you how people have been paid.
All right, I'm gonna have three more questions for y'all. So the first one's gonna be, can you keep Strongroom and use Payables Plus, or do you have to let go of one or the other?
You need to let go one of the other. I think it would be, I would say from a technical perspective, I probably could be challenged and somebody says, oh, well, technically it could happen, but I'm an operations person at heart and I would tell you that that would be disastrous to try to tell your team like, oh, use some this way and some the others, or and I think that there are also some people that wonder about like, well, what does migrating it look like? And I think that the truth is you just have to draw a line in the sand as to when your cutoff time is for or cutoff date is for Strongroom and to move to Payables Plus. Now the good thing is it's not really a long time to set up Payables Plus. And your team's already in sync. It's not like you're changing accounting software. It's really just like you're turning on some switches, and it takes a few weeks, but it's definitely something that can be done and timed just right.
Awesome. And second to last question, this is kind of more geared towards Celeste. Is
Mhm.
this included in the top level of CFI Plus? Or is it just a different situation for pricing?
Yeah, great question. So it is just a different situation. It's not technically included, however, the invoice ingestion, or excuse me, coding is. But it is, you don't have to pay for the invoice coding agent should you kind of go with Payables Plus, because we wanted to make sure it felt like it wasn't just another add-on, right? It was still a fair pricing and fair for you to guys to have CPI Plus and this, because we think both are really beneficial.
Awesome. And last question for you guys before we end today. I'm currently a Sync customer, but I'm not familiar with AvidXchange. What's the first steps that I should take to implement AvidXchange and Payables Plus?
So there are two ways that you can do this. You can reach out to your sync rep and schedule time with them, or you can reach out to me directly and I will help. I can do this for you and pair you with the sync person and get you all set up. My email address is, can I type in the chat here? Let's see. I'll put it here. It's jtran@avidexchange.com, and I'm putting it in the chat right now. Did that show up to everybody? It says host. No,
Yeah,
host
just
and
our
analyst here.
analysts here.
All right, let me try that again.
There
I
we
just put
go.
it in the chat for everybody for you to share it.
Thank
We'll also be sharing this recording with everybody as well. That way you guys can review it, look back at it, and all that. So, this is not the last time you guys will be able to see this recording or anything like that. And like Jared said, if you want to reach out to him to talk to you guys, to talk more about this product, you can. Thank you guys for joining today. Any last thoughts or comments from the two of you guys?
I
No,
don't have
I think it's a
anything.
really huge product that's kind of covering both sides. Because, right, we took that invoicing agent, which is really helpful, time saving, but then you still have to cut the check in-house. So now you can actually do both and make AP a lot easier.
It's really going to be a great experience for people that decide to move forward with it. It's simple and it's in an environment where you're already living. So I think we'll be happy with it. We have a lot of happy clients on this right now. So thank you all for your time. Juliana, thank you for hosting.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and y'all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you all so much.
Bye,
Have a great
everybody.